Hello, welcome to the Upper Room podcast. This time I've got Maddy Prescott with me, and we're talking about connecting with non-Christian friends and family. But as always, before we start that, I want to hear a little bit about Maddy and ask her, well, something about your Christian background, your story, and some of the big things in that story. So start wherever you feel comfortable going back to, and talk to us about how you became a Christian, or how you started your Christian life, and how you got to here.
Yes, so I grew up at St Mary's. I've been coming since I was probably about 2 years old, and so I grew up through all the Sunday school and youth groups. Um, and yeah, so I feel like I had a pretty good like foundation of Christian knowledge as a child, but it was probably like in my teenage years when I started coming to like the evening services when I was in what was then the Net, which is now Focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I started hearing the sermons, and I remember just being really struck by the fact that I needed God. Like I was quite a good child. I thought I could manage, I could do things well by myself. Um, but learning that I wasn't supposed to have it all together myself. I needed God. Um, and that was quite a big change in my life. Um, and yeah, so sort of from, I think it was the age of 15, I chose to get baptized and confirmed. And then yeah, as I went off to university, I sort of you have that sort of challenge that are you going to keep going in
Mm.
your faith by yourself, and was really encouraged getting stuck in at a church there, and that really helped me grow my faith. And yeah, and then came back here to St Mary's after I graduated.
So you really found that getting stuck into a church at university was an important thing, because it's often the case you think, oh, yeah, I'll join the CU, but I would always want to say that joining a church and belonging to the church is really an important thing at university.
Yeah, I found church hugely helpful at university. I was really homesick when I first moved, and one of the things I did on the first day is like I decided I was just going to turn up at a church because I didn't know what else to do with myself. And I was so welcomed by that church, and it felt like a home away from home. And that was such an encouragement to me. Um, yeah, to feel like I had a Christian family even when I was far away from my family.
Mm.
Um, that was really helpful.
Yeah, that kind of chimes in with the themes that we're exploring in this series about the importance of welcome and fellowship and feeling part of a family. But for you, displaced and feeling a bit alone, that
Yeah.
meant an awful lot to have a welcome like that.
Mhm.
But then you decided to come back to St Mary's. Tell us about that. Tell us about that decision.
Yeah, when I got towards the end of university, I was really torn about whether I wanted to stay in Glasgow or move back to Manchester. And I just felt this sense that God was calling me back to St Mary's. A lot of my friends, sort of in the youth group who were older than me, had gone away to university and then ended up carrying on living in those different cities. And it felt like everyone was sort of going away and leaving. And I felt this sense of being called to be one of the people who came back and stayed. There weren't
Mm.
many young adults at St Mary's, and I wanted to be one of them. It was that thing where um, once you get a few people, you get some momentum, but
Hmm.
the first ones are always the hardest. And I
Hmm.
felt like I wanted to be one of those people who was there in the hopes that that would encourage other people to stay or to join.
Mm. That's brilliant. Thank you. And I'm sure, like a lot of people in St Mary's, who want to really thank you for being willing to do that. And it's such a blessing. Um, it is a genuine encouragement to the whole fellowship. It is a whole family, and it's good to have people of all ages belonging to it as much as you, I'm sure, benefit from having older people and younger people and feeling part of a coherent church family. It's a blessing to have you. But you came back not sure quite what you were going to. What did you have an idea of what you would do as well as going to St Mary's? Uh,
Well, so I studied maths and stats at university and was planning on getting a job doing some sort of statistics or data analysis type thing. And I ended up coming back to the church at the same time as the previous administrator had just retired, and they were looking for someone to cover sort of temporarily over the summer while they found someone else. So I was like, oh yeah, I could do some admin jobs. That would be a nice thing to do for a couple of months while I look for another job.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I started that in July 2023. And the more I did it, the more I just really enjoyed it. I found it really interesting seeing church from behind the scenes almost.
Hmm.
Like I'd only ever known St Mary's really as a child, and so being a grown up member of the church and getting stuck in so many different areas through doing administration, I really enjoyed. Um, and yeah, it just worked out that it was perfect. It fit in so well with my circumstances at the time that I just kept
Hmm.
going with it. And the more I did it, the more I loved it and felt a sense that it was where God wanted me to be. And then obviously when you joined, I started working alongside you too. And that's been such a big encouragement to me. I really love doing that.
Well, I'm very appreciative of it too. You said behind the scenes, and I know you love being behind the scenes, but that doesn't mean that you're not very deeply involved, especially now,
Mm.
in everything that's going on. You do seem to cling on to the administration because you like it to be done properly, and you do it very well. But you've got involved in some other things as well as we've worked together and found that we work quite well together, and it's become quite a symbiotic kind of relationship in just having a vision for the parish, and you've discovered you enjoy doing church strategy. So tell us about what's excited you, what have you enjoyed doing, what have you enjoyed getting into um, in that way.
Um, I guess drawing on some of the statistics side of the way my brain works, over I think it's just over a year ago we did sort of a big church survey, sort of gathering people's experience of St Mary's and what they like and how they worship
Hmm.
and what they want to do going forward. And I really enjoyed getting to sort of look through that and draw all that together
Hmm.
and see um, where people wanted to go next with the church, what areas they were passionate about, what they thought we should do more of. And it was really encouraging to read through all that and yeah, have a part in sort of discerning what the congregation felt was the next thing they wanted to
Hmm.
do. Yeah, working alongside you and doing that.
And we had a strategy group which you were part of,
Mm-hmm.
and you enjoyed doing that. But I remember one thing. Uh, you've just done the same thing for Project Sanctuary, which is where you distill all the data and look at the big themes and then reflect on that and report back on it. And that's an exciting thing. We're going to do that in another podcast of some kind, I hope. But you did distill it, and then you, for some reason, it was rowing around your head, and you decided to write that down. And this paper appeared about, wouldn't it be nice if we could do this? And it was all about home groups and fellowship. Can you remember some of the things that you said in that?
Um, yeah, I think it'd come out of stuff I'd read, sort of Christian books and ideas there, but the idea that church as a big congregation is really hard to get to know people well,
Mm.
and what's so encouraging as a Christian is getting to know other Christians deeply and seeing like going through life together in that way. That church should be more than just what you do on a Sunday, but it
Mm.
should be your whole week.
Mm.
And yes, we have small groups that meet once a week and do a Bible study, but couldn't we do more with that? Isn't Shouldn't we be building friendships that spill into the whole of our lives, not just once or twice a week? Um, and so having home groups that aren't just about studying the Bible, though of course that's important, but about praying together and sharing meals together and being whole families together
Mm.
is a way of being a church family that is lived out throughout the week and not just when you meet together on a Sunday or midweek.
Mm. And some of our home groups are very much along those lines. But certainly what you wrote made me think, and then it's been coming back and coming back as a theme in the strategy group. It's pretty much inspired the series that we're doing now, to be fair. And I think that was one of the things that made me think about how we have you in your role in that in the church in leading the church, and it's certainly your role is constantly developing, and it's been very encouraging to see that. There was one strand in that paper though that we're looking at today, and there's a thing I hadn't often thought about before, and that was how home groups can kind of be uh, at the forefront of connecting with people who aren't belonging to the church, who don't know Jesus yet. That they can do some evangelism and outreach work. They can be a place of welcome. And you were very clear about that. I wondered if that drew on a particular experience that you'd had.
I think one of the things that stood out to me when we were looking at all the survey responses initially was how busy everybody's lives are,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea of wanting to encourage home groups to be more than just a midweek meeting
Mm.
puts a lot of can feel like it puts a lot of pressure on people to add more things into their lives, or they don't want to get involved because they're already super busy.
Mm.
And so the idea of being able to do the things that you already do but with other people
Mm-hmm.
was something that seemed to be a sort of a way around that almost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sorry, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, well, I think, well, I mean, that's aspirationally, that's really helpful because we also talked about resting
Mm.
as well as doing stuff together and trying to grow. Um, I did just wonder whether, I mean, I think you told me about one experience. It wasn't necessarily a home group, but somebody who wasn't a Christian who just came into contact with a Christian fellowship on a smaller level, and that was something that really blessed them and helped them to connect with church.
So when I was at university, there was one of my friends on my course, um, and we'd have like Christian Union sort of lunch talks where you could like come along and there'd be a little talk and a sort of apologetics kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. A
Um,
lunch bar,
yeah,
yeah,
um,
classic formula.
yeah, and so it ended up that quite a lot of people from our maths course came along to
Mm.
these. There was a couple of us who were Christians in the group, and the whole load of them came along. But there was one guy in particular who was really struck by it, and he had loads of questions and was really interested. And what I think really helped him was start he decided to start coming along to church. And when he came to church and then was included in one of the small groups, we had a weekly Bible study, and it wasn't sort of like an introductory course or like just an overview. We were studying the book of Romans throughout the
Mm-hmm.
course of the year,
That's hardcore.
and he came in halfway through the year.
Mm.
So we were already like well into it, but I think it was so encouraging for him just to get stuck in and be able to hear where we were all at, but also to have his perspective as someone fairly new to faith, um, on how he read it too. And I think, yeah, sharing in a small group and studying the Bible together with people of all levels of faith,
Mm.
whether they're seeking or new or have been Christians for years, is such an encouragement to everyone in the group. I don't think you have to feel like you're at a certain level to be able to participate. I think there's so much we can learn from new believers as well, or people who are just experiencing it for the first time, and the way that a small group can be a place of welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I think as Christians, if we're welcoming people, it's not just we're here to answer their questions, it's we're actually invested in them too. And I think that's a really great witness of the gospel too.
Thank you so much. And I just want to trying to put it back to you because we might have a certain picture in our mind of what a home group is or what our home group that we belong to is, and we might not think it's a good place to bring somebody new along. But I've experienced the same thing that you described, bringing somebody who's completely new, and they find it sort of intoxicating to them. There's something more than just the stuff that we're talking about, which they probably don't understand all of it. There's something about being together, about that speaks to them, and I guess that's what happens. This guide, doesn't it? So, what would you say to people who say, "Well, I don't think home group is really about all that. I don't think it's about. It's about just building a relationship between ourselves. We want to know each other's lives more, and that's a bit difficult if you bring an outsider in. What would you say to that?
Um, I think the more home groups become about, um, yeah, spending time getting to know one another and having times where you, I don't know, share meals together or just over tea and coffee, having conversations about how your life is going, what things are going well, what things are hard, what things you need prayer for. I think that's a much easier environment to see, to bring a friend along to and say, here are some of my friends. Do you want to come and meet them? We're gonna just spend time sitting together and catching up. And I don't know, like, I think often big evangelistic events you bring a friend along to and they might think, wow, this is amazing, but then it doesn't necessarily last. I think I've experienced that where they've been like big schools tours and stuff, and they're like, oh, this sounds amazing, but it's just an amazing idea. I think in a home group you see it lived out in practice. And when you talk about just in the day to day how your faith affects your life, I think that can perhaps prompt more in someone than it might just hearing an amazing message and being like, that sounds really cool, but what does it mean to me? I think when you are actually able to talk about, well, no, I'm able to get through this difficult thing because I know God is with me in it, or I've seen how God has worked through this thing, or I trust that God's going to provide for me so I don't need to worry about what's coming next. I think that can be a more powerful witness. And yes, we can do that one to one with our friends, but I think seeing how we relate to one another is really helpful too as Christians.
Do you think it shows more of the character of Jesus when we're in a group like that? Yeah. I guess one objection would also be that's quite a hard thing to come to, whereas you said the opposite of that. You said actually that's an easier thing to come to as a complete newcomer. What would make you say that?
I don't know. I think it's helpful when you're already friends with, you already have some connection with one or two people in the group,
right?
Rather than just a complete stranger joining the group. I think it's the thing of, like, as you share your life with your friends meet your other friends, and it happens more naturally like that.
So there's a good sort of organic relationship.
Yeah.
So you're not you. It's happened a little bit in the focus group. Sort of people who are joining the 14 to 18s group, that they're joining for the first time, but it's not as if they don't know anybody. They come with a. So and when we pray in house groups, we're usually praying into a network of relationships based on the people who are there. And so they've already, that we have a series of connections, and it's just bringing people in into that.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess home groups can sort of make it more of a deliberate evangelistic thing and say, we're going to have a meal, why don't you see if you can bring a friend along to this? Because I think certainly for some people, things like that on a smaller scale are less daunting than a big organised event. And big organised events take a lot of work, and actually most of the people we're seeing turning up at church at the moment aren't coming in because they've come to some amazing evangelistic event. They just want to know more about what church is like and what Jesus is like. And so if we can bring them into just our daily lives rather than like a big spectacle, that's more genuine, I think.
I think authenticity is a big part of that.
Yeah.
You want to see something that's real and has purpose. It doesn't have to be a high production value. In fact, if it's carefully manufactured and groomed, then it's suspicious. That could be AI. We don't like that. So that's a big thing, isn't it? And also, just the sense in which people are searching already is really powerful, and you're giving them a way in which to encounter genuine faith and just be a part of it. We mentioned having meals together, and that's very New Testament, right? But it's not the only way, is it? I guess you could go for walks together and things like that. Have you any other thoughts on that? Because I think you remember you suggesting a few things in that vein.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can just be simple things that you would be doing anyway, like I don't know, going to the park together, going to the shops together, like if you're part of a club, bringing someone along to it. Like it doesn't have to be a that thing of it being a big organized event. It's just I'm doing this thing. Do you want to do it with me? Um,
And so, what would you say uh, to people who are in a house group? Perhaps they've been meeting together for 6 years and they've never done anything like this. Why would you encourage them to think about doing it?
I think it's yeah. We should all be thinking about the people in our lives that don't know Christ. Who are the people that we're seeking to share the gospel with at that time.
Mm.
And as home groups, we want to share that with each other and be praying for those people as a group.
Yeah.
And if we're thinking about ways we could bring those people in by having a sort of an open invite kind of
Mm.
social or something. At the moment, it feels like home groups do like Bible studies or they do socials, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd like to see the lines blurred of those a bit more because surely all our life should be
Mm.
talking about our faith. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Blur the lines and blur the lines in terms of who that fuzzy edges on your groups. And do you think? I mean, it sounds to me like that's really powerfully mobilizing us as disciple makers, isn't it?
mm,
Because organizing a big event, you're the chair of the events group, so you've got skin in this particular game. But yeah, well, it's good to do that and to coordinate that. Uh, but this focuses on everyone who's in a small group and the people that are closest to them. It's quite a powerful change of emphasis, isn't it?
yeah, I think yeah, I guess it makes the emphasis on each of us, not as the church as a whole. What is the
Mm.
church doing? It's for evangelism. It's what are we doing in our lives, and that thing of welcoming new people into the church. Like if people feel known, they're more likely to come back
Mm.
again. I think if somebody gets an invite to go to somebody's house or to go out for a walk with somebody, then they've got a connection, and that's the start of building a relationship once you know someone and spend time with them.
Discipleship is relational. It's a family thing. It's not just a course you go on to learn some, useful sort of structures for understanding the Book of Romans. It is something we do in relationship with each other, because otherwise it's not really discipleship.
Mm.
I mean, and evangelism has gone through phases in living memory. There was the course, get them on the course, and then thought, oh, come with them on the course, or bring them to the event. But then we realised that actually it's the connection that matters. So we did a lot of effort in uh, resourcing for personal evangelism. You need to get out there into the workplace or into your families and be a witness for Christ. But that turned out to be really, really hard. And there's only some personality types that actually enjoy it. Most of us are terrified of it, and because you're on your own. But I think what you're talking about, is perfect because you're not on your own, but you are much more personal, relational. But you're with your small group, the people who know you best, who you do life with, who and therefore you can be really real about your faith. You can experience an authenticity about that, but you can do it personally. So I think it's brilliant, um, and thank you for the inspiration. Um, so what would be the next step for your house group? We don't know. No. Okay. Well, I think that's a good question to take to them and to think through, and for all of us. And thank you very much for chatting to us, Maddie. We'll be back next time with something else because this is the last in the series for Pray Rest Grow Together. But thank you for joining us.